The German commandant is waiting in the barn. Marcel Beaumont knows this before he sees the man knows it from the silence of the chickens, the way the morning light slants wrong through the door. His boots stop at the threshold. Inside, Commandant Weber stands beside the hidden grain stores Marcel thought no one knew about. 2 soldiers flank him. Between them, Pierre Duchamp kneels in the straw, hands bound behind his back, blood crusting his temple. Monsieur Beaumont. Weber's French is perfect, accent barely detectable. We have discovered something interesting. The grain sacks are split open. Wheat spills gold across the dirt floor. 40 kilograms, Marcel buried 3 weeks ago. 40 kilograms that should have gone to German requisition. 40 kilograms meant to keep his family alive when the official rations run out. Pierre won't look at him. The younger man's shoulders shake. Your neighbor was caught taking from your stores, Weber continues. His gloved hand rests on his holster. He claims he had your permission, did he? The barn smells of hay and fear and the sweet rot of last year's apples still in the loft. Through the wall, Marcel can hear his wife in the kitchen, the soft clink of their daughter's breakfast bowl, the scrape of a wooden spoon. They don't know yet. They don't know the commandant has found what could get them all shot. Well, Weber's voice is patient. He has time. He has all the time in the world. The war has given him that. Marcel's mouth is dry. The calculation is simple, brutal. If he claims the grain is his hidden illegally from requisition, his family faces punishment, confiscation, perhaps deportation to the labor camps in Germany, perhaps worse. If he denies giving Pierre permission, if he lets the younger man take the blame alone, Pierre will hang in the village square by sunset. 1 man's life. Or 3, Marcel, his wife, his daughter. The commandant is still waiting. But to understand how Marcel Beaumont arrived at this moment, how a farmer who once believed in God and France and the goodness of honest work came to stand in his own barn choosing who will die, we must go back. Back to 5 o'clock that morning, when the day still held the illusion that survival was possible without betrayal. Back to when he first opened his eyes and believed, for just 1 moment, that today might be different. 5 o'clock in the morning, March 14th, 1917. Marcel wakes to darkness and the sound of distant artillery, a low rumble from the west, constant as a heartbeat, 15 kilometers away where the front line holds. He's learned to sleep through it. Everyone has. The shelling is so steady now it's the silence that would wake him. Beside him, his wife Cecile breathes evenly. She won't wake for another hour. He moves carefully. Not wanting to disturb her, she sleeps so little these days, always listening for the patrol boots, the knock that could come any night. The floorboards are cold through his socks. He dresses in darkness, wool trousers stiff with age, a shirt patched at both elbows, the suspenders his father wore. Their bedroom window faces east. Through it, he can see the first gray hint of dawn touching the fields. His fields, except they're not his anymore. Nothing is. Not the grain he grows, not the animals in his barn, not even the time he wakes. The Germans requisition everything. 3 years of occupation have taught him this. In the kitchen, he lights a single candle, they're down to 3, and there won't be more until the monthly ration. The flame throws shadows on walls that used to hold photographs. His parents, his brother who died at Verdun, his daughter's first communion, all hidden now. The Germans don't like being reminded that French people existed before they arrived. He pulls on his boots. The left one has a hole in the sole the size of a 2-franc piece. He's patched it with folded paper, doesn't hold water. But it's something. He owned 3 pairs of boots before the war. Now he has these, and when these fail, he'll wrap his feet in cloth like the poorest villagers do. From the shelf above the stove, he takes down the morning's ration, a third of a loaf of bread, dark and dense. Official ration is 250 grams per day for workers, 175 for others. His family gets 700 grams total. It's not enough. It hasn't been enough for 2 years. The bread is more sawdust than flour. Now the Germans mill the grain so fine there's barely anything left, then cut what remains with wood pulp. Still, it's food. He cuts a thin slice, chews slowly, making it last. No butter that's been gone for months, no jam, just bread that tastes of nothing and makes his stomach hurt. But it fills the space, and filling the space is what matters. Through the eastern window, dawn is coming faster now. He can see the outline of the barn, the chicken coop, the well. Beyond them, the fields stretch toward the village fields that should be showing green shoots by now, spring wheat pushing through the soil. But the fields are brown, mostly fallow. The Germans took his 2 horses in 1915. They took his son, 14 years old, sent to dig trenches behind German lines in 1916. Now Marcel works the land with his own hands and whatever tools he can hide from requisition. He finishes the bread, drinks water from a tin cup. The well water tastes of rust, but it's clean. From the bedroom, he hears Cécile stir. Soon she'll wake their daughter Amélie. Soon they'll have to face another day of rationing, of patrols, of the constant calculation of how to survive until tomorrow. But first, the morning inspection. Every day, the German patrol comes through at dawn. Every day, Marcel must stand in his yard and account for everything he owns. It's been 3 years. It never gets easier. He pulls on his coat too thin for march, but it's the only one he has. Steps out into the cold morning air. The artillery rumbles west. Somewhere beyond the German lines, French soldiers are dying for this land. And here, in his own yard, Marcel waits for permission to work his own farm. This is occupation. This is the war they don't show in the newspapers. This is 5 o'clock in the morning, in a France that no longer belongs to France. The patrol arrives at 5:40. Marcel hears them before he sees them boots on the road, the clink of rifles, German voices low and efficient, 4 soldiers led by Corporal Steiner, the same patrol every morning. They round the corner from the village center, breath misting in the cold air, uniforms gray against the gray dawn. Marcel stands in his yard beside the barn door, hands visible, no sudden movements. 3 years have taught him the rules. Beaumont. Steiner doesn't waste words. He's a farm boy himself, from somewhere in Bavaria once let slip that his father grows barley. He's not cruel, but he follows orders precisely. In occupation, that amounts to the same thing. Corporal. Marcel keeps his voice neutral. Steiner glances at his clipboard. Grain stores? We inspect today. Marcel's heart kicks once, hard. He forces his face still. The stores are low. I told the requisition office last week. We inspect. Steiner nods to his men. 2 soldiers move toward the barn. Marcel follows, has no choice but to follow. Inside, morning light slants through gaps in the boards. The barn smells of hay and animal warmth. 1 cow left. 3 chickens that barely lay anymore. The Germans took everything else 2 winters ago. The soldiers walk the perimeter, checking corners, prodding hay bales with rifle butts. Standard procedure. They're looking for hidden stores, undeclared grain, anything that should have been requisitioned and wasn't. The punishment for hoarding is severe. Marcel knows a farmer 3 villages over who was sent to Germany for hiding 5 kilograms of flour. His family hasn't heard from him since. The official grain stores are in the loft 12 sacks, clearly marked, counted, and recounted at every inspection. The Germans know exactly how much is there, 160 kilograms, barely enough to seed next month's planting. Everything else from last year's harvest went to requisition. Everything, except for the 40 kilograms Marcel buried beneath the false floor near the back wall, hidden under 3 years' worth of straw and chicken droppings. 40 kilograms he skimmed over 6 months, a handful at a time, rationing from his own family's portions. 40 kilograms that could keep them alive when not if the official rations fail completely. The soldiers' boots move across the floor. One walks directly over the hidden cache. Marcel doesn't breathe. The board doesn't creak. The soldier moves on. Loft stores match records. One soldier calls up to Steiner. Steiner makes a note, looks at Marcel. You have planted for spring? 2 hectares in wheat. As ordered, production quota this year is 18% higher. I know. Marcel keeps his voice level. With 1 cow and no horses, I don't. Not my concern. Steiner cuts him off. Not cruel, just factual. Quota is quota. You fail to meet it, someone else works this land. Someone German, he means. They've already brought in colonists from Germany to work the abandoned farms abandoned because the owners were deported or fled or died. Marcel's seen them in the village, fresh-faced families speaking German, living in houses that still have French names on the door. The inspection finishes. The soldiers file out. Steiner pauses at the door. There is talk, he says quietly, that someone in this village is hoarding grain. The commandant is not pleased. When we find who it is, he doesn't finish, doesn't need to. Marcel nods, says nothing. The patrol moves on to the next farm. Through the barn door, Marcel watches them go. His hands are shaking now, the fear he couldn't show finally breaking through. They walked right over it. But they'll be back. They always come back. And next time, they might look harder. 6:30 in the morning. The sun clears the eastern tree line. Marcel works alone in the south field, turning soil that's been fallow since autumn. The spade bites into earth still half frozen, each thrust jarring his shoulders. Before the war, he hired help for spring planting 3 men from the village, working together, singing sometimes, passing a bottle of wine at midday. Now there's only him. The village men are gone conscripted, killed, sent to labor camps. Only the very old and very young remain. And the women, always the women, somehow keeping everything from collapse. The field should be planted with potatoes. The Germans prefer wheat, easier to transport, longer storage, feeds their army, but Marcel needs potatoes. His family needs potatoes. So he's planting the official quota wheat in the north fields where patrols can see, and he'll plant potatoes here, hoping the inspectors don't notice one field is a different crop. It's a small defiance, pathetic, really, but it's all he has. By 7 o'clock, his back aches, and he's covered a 1/4 hectare, pathetically slow. With horses, he'd be done by now. With horses and help, he'd have finished yesterday. But horses are gone and help is gone, and all that remains is the work and the ache and the knowledge that the quota won't be met, and meeting the quota is the only thing keeping him here, on his land, with his family. From the road, he hears a cart approaching. He straightens, shades his eyes. Pierre Duchamp drives a borrowed wagon pulled by a mule so old its ribs show through its hide. Pierre is 24, too young for the front, took shrapnel in his leg. In 1915, limps badly, deemed unfit for service. Now he works the farm his father used to run, 3 kilometers north. Marcel, Pierre waves. You have a minute? Marcel plants the spade, walks to the road. Up close, Pierre looks worse than the mule hollowed out, eyes too large in his thin face. Everyone looks like this now. 3 years of occupation diet. Bread, potatoes, watery soup, the occasional bit of meat so tough it's barely chewable. What is it? Pierre glances back toward the village, checking for patrols, lowers his voice. I need to ask something. About food. Marcel's stomach tightens. He knows what's coming. My mother is sick, Pierre continues. The doctor says she needs more food, real food, not this garbage they give us. I heard. He hesitates. I heard you might have something extra, just a little. I can pay. I don't have anything. Marcel cuts him off. Too quick, too defensive. Pierre meets his eyes. Please, she's dying, Marcel. She's dying of hunger. If I could just... I don't have anything, Marcel repeats. Go home, Pierre. He turns back to his field, doesn't watch the younger man leave. The spade feels heavier now. The morning passes in the rhythm of labor. Dig, turn, break the soil, move forward. By 9 o'clock, Marcel has covered half the field. His hands blister through his work gloves. Sweat soaks his shirt, despite the cold. He drinks water from a canteen, tastes of rust and the leather it's wrapped in, and keeps working. The quota system is precise, calculated to extract maximum production. Each farm in the occupation zone has assigned targets based on land quality and pre-war yields. Marcel's farm, 4 hectares of wheat, must produce 2,200 kilograms minimum. Before the war, with horses and help and proper fertilizer, he could do 3,000. Now, working alone, he'll be lucky to hit 1,800. 1,800 means failure. Failure means consequences. He's seen the consequences. Last autumn, old Durand, 2 farms over, missed quota by 12%. The Germans gave him one warning. This spring, Durand's family was relocated to Germany Voluntary Labor Service, the notice said. The farm now grows crops for a German settler family. Their children play in Durand's yard. At 10 o'clock, Marcel stops for the mid-morning break, sits on a stone wall, dividing the field from the road, eats his ration, 1 small boiled potato, cold from morning cooking, no salt. The potato is mealy, tasteless, barely fills his palm. Before the war, he would have fed this to pigs. Now it's a meal. From the village, the church bell rings the hour. 10 clear notes. The bells still work, at least. The Germans haven't melted them down for munitions. Yet. A German truck rumbles past on the road supply convoy, heading toward the front. 6 trucks, canvas-covered beds, armed guards on the running boards. They pass every morning at 10, regular as the bells. Marcel has learned to time his work by them. Patrol at dawn, convoy at 10, inspection at 2, curfew at 8. Occupation has its rhythms, predictable and inescapable. He finishes the potato, returns to work. By 11:30, his hands are bleeding through the gloves. The blisters have broken, turned to raw wounds that weep clear fluid. He should stop, should bandage them, rest until tomorrow. But tomorrow the work will still be there, and the day after, and every day until planting is finished. There's no rest in wartime farming. There's only the quota and the consequences of missing it. At noon, Cécile appears at the field's edge, carrying a small basket. Marcel's heart lifts. She shouldn't be here, should stay at home where it's safer, but God, he's grateful to see her. She walks slowly, scanning the road for patrols, and when she reaches him, her face is tight with worry. You need to come home, she says quietly. What's wrong? Pierre Duchamp came to the house. He's desperate, Marcel, his mother. I told him I don't have anything. He knows about the grain. Cecile's voice drops to barely a whisper. He knows you have stores hidden. He said if you don't help him, he'll have to find another way. I think he means he'll take it. Marcel's blood goes cold. He can't. If he's caught, if anyone sees. His mother is dying. Everyone's mother is dying. The words come out harsh, too loud. He checks the road. Empty. Lowers his voice. Cecile, if the Germans find out I've hidden grain, they'll shoot me. They'll take you and Amélie. I know. Her eyes are red. She's been crying. I know what they'll do. But Pierre knows where the cache is, Marcel. He worked harvest with you. He remembers the barn. If he's desperate enough, he'll take the grain himself. And when the Germans find it missing during the next inspection, which they will, they always do, they'll know someone stole it. They'll question everyone. Torture, if necessary. And Pierre Duchamp, with his limp and his sick mother and his terrible desperation, will break. Marcel looks at his field, half-planted, impossibly far from finished, looks at his wife, who once smiled every day and now barely remembers how. Tell him to come tonight, he says finally, after curfew, and tell him, if anyone sees him, we're all dead. Marcel doesn't eat lunch, can't eat. His stomach is knotted too tight. He works the field until 1 o'clock, turning earth that suddenly feels like his own grave. Every thrust of the spade is a prayer. Please let Pierre be careful. Please let no one see. Please let this not be the mistake that destroys everything. 3 years. 3 years of surviving by being invisible, by keeping his head down, by following every arbitrary rule and swallowing every humiliation. 3 years of watching his neighbors disappear, his village empty, his country bleed. 3 years of living like a mouse, and now because of mercy, because he couldn't say no to a desperate man, he's risked it all. At 1:15, he returns to the barn to check the hidden cache one more time. The barn is empty, quiet, except for the cows breathing. He crosses to the back wall, kneels beside the false floor, lifts the boards carefully, they're balanced on support beams, weighted to sit flush. Beneath, the grain sacks, 40 kilograms spread across 8 small bags, buried under layers of straw and chicken waste to mask the smell. It's still there, still safe, for now. He's replacing the boards when he hears boots behind him. Interesting spot for repairs, Monsieur Beaumont. Marcel's heart stops. He turns slowly, still kneeling. Commandant Weber stands in the doorway, backlit by midday sun, face in shadow, but Marcel knows him, everyone knows him. Weber has commanded the occupation garrison for 18 months. He's efficient, educated, speaks French like a native. Some say he studied at the Sorbonne before the war. Some say he has family in Paris. None of it matters. What matters is that Weber is very good at his job, and his job is control. Behind him, 2 soldiers. One is young, nervous. The other is older, harder, carries his rifle like he hopes someone gives him a reason. Commandant. Marcel stands slowly, keeping his hands visible. I was checking the floor. Wrought problem with the boards. With the boards near the back wall, Weber steps inside, boots clicking on wood. How unfortunate. Shall we inspect together? It's not a question. Marcel's mind races. The boards are back in place. The cache is hidden. If he refuses inspection, they'll know something is wrong. If he allows it, they might find it anyway. There's no good choice. There's never a good choice. Of course, Commandant. Weber walks the barn's perimeter, examining everything with the careful attention of a man who has done this 1,000 times. He checks the loft-standard grain stores, Counted, approved. He checks the stalls, 1 cow, 3 chickens. He checks the walls for loose boards, the roof for gaps, the corners for hidden spaces. He stops at the back wall, looks down at the floor Marcel was just kneeling on. This area seems undisturbed, he observes. How long have you suspected rot? It's recent. Just noticed yesterday. Weber kneels, taps the boards with his knuckles, they sound solid, looks up at Marcel. It sounds fine to me. Perhaps I was mistaken. Perhaps. Weber stands, brushes dust from his knee. Or perhaps you're hiding something, Monsieur Beaumont, and my arrival interrupted you before you could access it. The barn suddenly feels airless. Marcel can hear his own heartbeat, loud in his ears. The soldiers shift their weight, hands moving toward their rifles. I have nothing to hide. Everyone in this village is hiding something. Weber's voice is conversational, almost friendly. Food, most commonly. A sack of grain here, a few potatoes there. They think if they're clever enough, if they hide it well enough, they can cheat the requisition system. He pauses. They're wrong. He walks to the door, stops on the threshold, looking back. We have reliable information that someone in this village is hoarding significant quantities of grain. When we find them, and we will find them, Monsieur Beaumont, the consequences will be severe. Not just for the hoarder, for everyone who helped, everyone who knew, everyone who stayed silent. He adjusts his gloves. Good day. The Germans leave. Marcel stands in his barn, knees shaking, and listens to their boots fade down the road. Someone informed, someone in the village told the Germans about hidden grain, which means someone knows, which means time is running out. He has to move the cash. Tonight, before they come back with dogs and shovels and enough men to tear the barn apart board by board. But first, he has to get through the afternoon inspection, and Pierre is coming after curfew, and every minute the grain stays hidden is another minute closer to discovery. The artillery rumbles west, the war continues, and Marcel Beaumont has run out of safe choices. 2 o'clock. The afternoon inspection is routine until it isn't. Corporal Steiner arrives with the standard patrol. 4 soldiers, clipboard, measuring sticks for checking field planting depth. Marcel stands in his yard, hands at his sides, face composed. He's done this 100 times. Just get through it. Just survive the next hour. Steiner checks the fields, first measures plant spacing, confirms wheat versus fallow sections, calculates projected yield. The math is brutal. Based on current planting, Marcel's farm will produce approximately 1,700 kilograms, 500 kilograms short of quota. This is insufficient, Steiner says. Not angry, just stating fact. I'm working alone, Marcel says. No horses, no help. Excuses don't grow wheat. Steiner makes a note. You have until harvest to meet quota. If you cannot, we will discuss reallocation. Reallocation. The polite word for seizure. They move to the barn. Steiner and 2 soldiers enter while the others wait outside. Standard procedure. They check the loft stores still match records. They check the cow healthy enough, producing minimal milk but alive. They check the... Steiner stops at the back wall. Kneels where Weber knelt hours earlier. This floor sounds hollow. Marcel's vision narrows. The barn tilts. It's old wood. The whole floor sounds. Here, specifically, Steiner wraps his knuckles in the exact spot, different from the rest. 1 soldier moves to Marcel's side, hand on his rifle. The other stands in the doorway, blocking exit. Steiner looks up at Marcel with the expression of a man who has just solved a tedious puzzle. I think we should inspect beneath these boards. The commandant arrives before they finish prying up the floor. Weber stands in the barn doorway, sunlight behind him, and surveys the scene with the calm of vindication. The lifted boards, the exposed cache, the 8 bags of hidden grain spilled across the straw. 40 kilograms. Enough to feed Marcel's family for 2 months, enough to get them all shot. Well, Weber says quietly, here we are. Marcel says nothing. There's nothing to say. The evidence is visible, undeniable. His hands are shaking. He forces them still. Weber nods to a soldier. Bring the prisoner. They drag Pierre Duchamp into the barn. The younger man's face is bloodied, hands bound behind his back. His left eye is swollen shut. They throw him to his knees in the straw. He gasps, tries to speak, chokes on blood. We found Monsieur Duchamp attempting to access your barn around 1 o'clock, Weber explains. When questioned, he claimed he had permission to take grain from your stores. Did he? The world stops. Marcel understands now, understands with perfect, terrible clarity. Pierre came early. Couldn't wait until after curfew, too desperate, too afraid his mother would die before nightfall. He came early and was caught. And when caught, he told the truth, that Marcel had hidden grain, that Marcel had promised to share it, that Marcel had been hoarding supplies for months. If Marcel confirms it admits the grain is his, admits he gave Pierre permission, he's confessing to illegal hoarding. The punishment is deportation at minimum, execution more likely. His family will be seized, his farm given to German settlers. Everything ends. If Marcel denies it, claims Pierre is lying, that Pierre discovered the cache on his own and tried to steal it, Pierre hangs. Today, in the village square, where his dying mother can watch her only son die because he tried to save her. The arithmetic of occupation. 1 life or 3. Your neighbor or your family. The calculations are always impossible. Weber is watching him with professional interest. This is a test, Marcel realizes. Weber already knows the answer, knows from interrogating Pierre, knows from the timeline, knows from 3 years of watching desperate people make desperate choices. But he wants to see what Marcel will do, wants to measure the depth of his surrender. Pierre finally looks up. Blood drips from his split lip. His good eye meets Marcel's. I'm sorry, Pierre whispers. I'm so sorry. She's dying, Marcel. She's... A soldier cuffs him. Pierre's head snaps sideways, fresh blood spattering the straw. Enough, Weber says. To Marcel, well, is he telling the truth? The barn is very quiet. Outside, Marcel can hear chickens scratching in the dirt, can hear the wind moving through the apple trees his grandfather planted, can hear his own breathing, too fast, too shallow. He thinks about his daughter, 8 years old, dark hair like her mother, laugh like morning birds. She hid in the cellar during the last inspection, terrified the soldiers would take her away like they took her brother. She barely speaks anymore, just watches everything with those wide, frightened eyes, waiting for the next terrible thing. He thinks about Cécile, holding on through 3 years of hunger and fear and loss, getting up every morning and somehow finding the strength to keep going, to keep the house running, to keep their daughter from falling into complete despair. What would happen to her in a German labor camp? What would they do to a French woman alone, without protection? He thinks about Pierre's mother, dying of hunger just 3 kilometers away, dying slowly because the occupation rations aren't enough, have never been enough, will never be enough. He thinks about his own father, who taught him that a man takes care of his family above all else. That loyalty begins at home, that you protect your own. He opens his mouth. The words that come out will define everything that follows. He's lying, Marcel says. His voice doesn't shake. I never gave him permission. He discovered the cash on his own. He came to steal it. Pierre makes a sound, not a word, just a sound, like air leaving a punctured lung. Weber nods slowly. I see. And the grain is yours? Hidden illegally from requisition? Too late. Marcel sees the trap. He's already condemned himself, already admitted ownership. The only question was whether Pierre hangs alone or they both do. The grain is mine, he says, because at least this way, maybe Cécile and Amélie will be spared. Maybe. If he takes full responsibility, they'll be classified as victims of his crime rather than accomplices. Maybe. Weber makes a notation on his clipboard. Take them both. The German garrison is a commandeered schoolhouse in the village center. They throw Marcel and Pierre into the cellar, converted to a holding cell, stone walls, single barred window near the ceiling showing a square of afternoon sky. 5 other men are already here, arrested for various infractions: hoarding, curfew violation, suspected resistance activity. Everyone looks hollow. Everyone looks like they're waiting to die. Marcel sits against the wall, knees drawn up, and tries not to think, tries not to see his daughter's face, his wife's hands, the farm his father gave him, tries not to add up all the ways he's failed. Across the cell, Pierre lies curled on his side, breathing wetly through his broken nose. The other prisoners give him space. Blood on your face means you've been interrogated, and interrogation is contagious. Nobody wants to be associated with that. I didn't tell them anything else, Pierre whispers. About the cash. Just that it existed, I swear. Marcel doesn't answer. What is there to say? Pierre told enough. And Marcel's denial, Marcel's choice to save his family by sacrificing his neighbor did the rest. Time moves strangely in the cell. Could be an hour, could be 3. The square of sky through the high window shifts from blue to gold to gray. Evening coming, curfew approaching. Cécile will know something is wrong by now. Will know the patrol didn't just inspect and leave. Will know he's been taken. What will she do? Try to appeal to Weber? Beg for mercy? There is no mercy in occupation. There are only rules and punishments and the grinding machinery of control. At what might be 5 o'clock, hard to tell without the church bells, which the Germans silenced an hour ago, footsteps sound on the stairs, keys rattle, the door opens. Beaumont. Out. Marcel stands, legs stiff from sitting. The guards escort him upstairs to the commandant's office. Once the headmaster's room still smells faintly of chalk and children's sweat. Weber sits behind a wide desk, papers neatly arranged, expression unreadable. Sit. Sit. Marcel sits. The chair is too small, meant for children. Makes him feel ridiculous, infantilized, probably intentional. Weber opens a file. Marcel's file, presumably, 3 years of occupation, compressed into bureaucratic forms. You have a daughter, Weber says. Not a question. Marcel's throat closes. He nods. 8 years old. Named Amélie. Attends the village school when it's open. Weber looks up. Your wife is Cécile, age 39, no occupation outside the home. Your son, he pauses, was taken for labor service in 1916. Currently assigned to trench construction, eastern sector. You haven't heard from him in 7 months. They know everything. Of course they know everything. The Germans document everything, every resident, every animal, every kilogram of grain. Occupation runs on paperwork. Under normal circumstances, Weber continues, hoarding of this magnitude would result in immediate deportation for your entire family. Your farm would be seized. Your daughter would be sent to Germany for re-education. Marcel's hands grip the chair edge. Please. However, Weber closes the file. Commandant General Lüdke has recently issued new directives regarding agricultural production. The spring harvest is critical. Every farm must meet quota. Removing experienced farmers at this stage would be counterproductive. Hope terrible, poisonous hope flares in Marcel's chest. Therefore, Weber says, I'm prepared to offer you an arrangement. You will remain on your farm. Your family will not be deported. Your quota obligation will remain unchanged, 2,200 kilograms, due at harvest. In exchange, you will provide us with information. The hope dies. Of course there's a condition. Information about what? Your neighbors. Who else is hoarding? Who is helping resistance fighters? Who is listening to banned radio broadcasts? Who is saying things against the Reich? Weber leans forward. You will be our eyes in this village, Beaumont. You will help us maintain order. And in return, your daughter stays safe. The choice is simple, brutal, impossible. Betray everyone around him, or lose his child. Marcel looks at the commandant's face, polite, professional, patient, and understands that this is the real punishment. Not arrest, not execution. This transformation of survival into collaboration. This grinding away of the soul piece by piece until nothing remains but compliance. And Pierre Duchamp? Marcel asks quietly. Will hang tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. You'll be required to attend. Of course, Marcel must watch, must witness the consequence of his choice, must learn the lesson occupation teaches over and over. Survival has a price, and the price is everything you used to believe about yourself. Do we have an arrangement? Weber asks. Outside, the curfew bell rings. 8 o'clock. The village surrenders to another night of occupation, another night of surviving, another night of learning to live with choices no human should have to make. Marcel looks at his hands, his father's hands, a farmer's hands, meant for planting and harvest, and the honest work of bringing life from soil. He nods. They release him at 8:30, half an hour after curfew. A guard escorts him to the schoolhouse door, watches him descend the steps into darkness. The village is silent, everyone inside, curtains drawn, lights dim or extinguished. Curfew means no movement, no sound, no visible life. The Germans patrol the streets every 30 minutes, and anyone caught outside is arrested, shot if they run. Marcel has 30 minutes to reach home. 2 kilometers on dark roads with no street lights, the Germans forbid them. Easier to spot rule breakers that way. 2 kilometers in the cold March night, walking past farms he's known his entire life, farms where his neighbors sleep and don't know yet that one of them is now a collaborator. The road is rutted from supply trucks. He walks carefully, avoiding the deepest holes. His legs ache from hours sitting on stone floor. His hands are still shaking, haven't stopped since the barn, since the choice, since everything fell apart. The sky is clear, stars scattered across infinite darkness. Before the war, he loved spring nights like this. Would walk these roads after evening work, breathing the smell of turned earth and growing things, listening to night birds call from the hedgerows. Used to feel like the land was alive, responding to him, growing under his care. Now the land feels like a trap, like something waiting to catch him, crush him, demand more than he can give. He passes the Moreau farm dark, silent. Old Moreau died last winter, pneumonia and hunger. His widow and 3 daughters work the farm now. They're always kind to Amélie, always share a smile despite everything. What will happen when Weber asks Marcel to inform on them? When they hoard an extra potato or hide a chicken from requisition, will he report them? Will he watch them be arrested and stay silent because he has to protect his own? He passes the Benoit house, also dark. The Benoit have a son hiding from labor conscription. Everyone knows it. Boys 17, living in their cellar for 6 months now. What happens when Weber discovers this? When he inevitably discovers it, because the Germans always discover everything? Will Marcel be the one who tells them where to look? The arithmetic keeps calculating itself in his head. His daughter versus the Benoit boy. His daughter versus the Moreau widow. His daughter versus everyone. Always his daughter, because what kind of father chooses strangers over his own child? But what kind of man becomes this? What kind of man survives by feeding his neighbors to the machine? The road climbs toward his farm. In the distance, he can see his barn, dark shape against darker sky, can see his house, single candle glowing in the kitchen window, Cécile keeping vigil, waiting. She always waits. His boot catches a rut. He stumbles, nearly falls, catches himself on a fence post. The wood is rough under his palm, splinters catching skin. Real, solid, the fence his grandfather built, still standing after 3 generations, still marking the boundary of land that has been Beaumont land for 100 years. Land he's betrayed to keep. Family he's betrayed others to protect. He straightens, keeps walking. 10 minutes to curfew now. The German patrol will pass soon, their truck's engine loud in the night silence. Marcel quickens his pace. Can't be caught out here. Can't give them any excuse. The farm gate is 20 meters ahead. 15, 10. Behind him, an engine growls to life. The patrol, right on schedule. Marcel reaches the gate as headlights sweep the road. He slips through, closes it quietly, presses himself against the barn wall in shadow. The truck rumbles past 4 soldiers, rifles ready, searchlights sweeping fields and buildings. The light passes 3 meters from where Marcel stands, breath held, heart hammering. The truck moves on. Silence returns. Marcel crosses the yard to his house. The kitchen door opens before he reaches it. Cécile stands backlit by candlelight, face unreadable. "I heard," she says quietly. "The whole village heard. What did you tell them?" He can't answer. Can't find words for what he's done, what he's agreed to become. She steps aside, lets him in, closes the door. "Amélie's asleep," she says. "I told her you were helping with something in the village. She doesn't need to know. She doesn't need to know. The first of many secrets, the first of many necessary lies." Marcel sits at the kitchen table, same table where he ate breakfast 10,000 times before the war, before occupation, before choices became impossible. Cécile puts a cup of water in front of him, not tea. They have no tea, just water, rust-tasting, drawn from the well his grandfather dug. "Pierre Duchamp hangs tomorrow morning," Marcel says. "I have to watch." Cécile's hand trembles on the water pitcher. That's all, just a tremor, immediately controlled. "And we stay here? We keep the farm?" "Yes, yes. What did you promise them?" He tells her everything, the arrangement, the informing, the betrayals to come. She listens without interrupting, face pale in candlelight, hands folded on the table like she's praying, except she stopped praying 2 years ago when her son was taken. When he finishes, she's quiet for a long time. "For Amélie," she finally says, not a question, a statement, an understanding. "For Amélie, then we do it." Her voice is flat, dead, the voice of someone who has already surrendered everything inside and is now just maintaining the shell. We do whatever keeps her safe. The rest doesn't matter anymore. But it does matter. It will always matter, and they both know it. 9 o'clock in the morning, March 15th, 1917. The entire village is required to attend. Orders from Commandant Weber. All residents to the square, mandatory presence, roll call to follow. Anyone absent will be questioned. This is how occupation teaches its lessons publicly, communally, ensuring everyone learns what happens when you break the rules. Marcel stands in the crowd, Cécile beside him, Amélie between them holding her mother's hand. The girl's eyes are too wide, uncomprehending. She's 8 years old. She shouldn't have to see this. But occupation doesn't care what children should or shouldn't see. Pierre Duchamp hangs from the lamppost in front of the church. They constructed the gallows at dawn. Simple design, crossbeam, rope, chair. Pierre stands on the chair now, hands bound, rope around his neck. His face is badly beaten, both eyes swollen, but he's conscious. They want him conscious, want him to know what's happening. His mother is in the crowd, 70 years old, dying of hunger, held upright by neighbors because she can barely stand. She doesn't cry, doesn't scream, just watches her son with an expression so hollow it doesn't look human anymore. Weber reads the charges from a prepared statement: theft of requisitioned materials, attempted hoarding, crimes against the occupation authority. The words mean nothing. The meaning is in the rope, in the lamppost, in Pierre's shaking legs on the wooden chair. Let this serve as reminder, Weber concludes. The rules exist for everyone's protection. Violation will not be tolerated. He nods to a soldier. The soldier kicks the chair away. Pierre drops. The rope catches. His body jerks once, twice, then hangs still. It takes 4 minutes for him to stop moving. 4 minutes while the entire village watches. 4 minutes while his mother stands silent and Marcel feels his daughter's hand tighten around his, her small fingers crushing his palm, and he thinks, this is the price. This is what keeping her safe costs. The crowd disperses slowly. No one speaks. What is there to say? This is the 14th execution in 3 years. Everyone has learned by now that words change nothing, that survival means silence, that the only choice is to go home, go back to work, go back to pretending that what you just witnessed was necessary, or just, or somehow less than atrocity. Marcel walks home between his wife and daughter. The morning is clear, sky blue, spring sun warm on his face. In the south field, the wheat he planted yesterday is invisible beneath the soil, seeds waiting for conditions to germinate. If he's lucky, if the weather holds, if the Germans don't requisition his fertilizer, the crop will grow, will reach quota, or close enough, will keep him on his land one more season. That's all there is now. One more season, one more day, one more choice that destroys a little more of who he used to be. They reach home. The barn still stands. The hidden cash is gone, confiscated, but the barn remains. The house remains. His daughter remains, alive and safe and traumatized, but alive. Papa? Amélie looks up at him. Why did that man have to die? Marcel opens his mouth, has no answer. What can he say? That Pierre died because he tried to save his mother? That Pierre died because Marcel chose his own family over mercy? That Pierre died because this is what occupation is, a machine that turns good people into accomplices and survival into sin? Sometimes, he says quietly, there are no good choices, only choices we have to live with. She doesn't understand. She's 8. She shouldn't have to understand. But she will. In time, she will. Occupation teaches everyone the same lessons eventually, teaches them that survival requires betrayal, that safety requires complicity, that being a good person is a luxury that costs more than most can pay. Cécile takes Amélie inside. Marcel stands in his yard, looking at his fields, his barn, his land. 4 generations of Beaumonts have worked this soil. 4 generations of honest labor, honest harvest, honest life. He is the 5th generation, and he has just learned what it costs to remain. Tomorrow he will wake at 5. Tomorrow he will return to the fields. Tomorrow the German patrol will come, and he will answer their questions, and he will inform on his neighbors if they ask, because that is the arrangement, that is the price, that is what survival requires now. Tomorrow the war will still be grinding through its 4th year, and the artillery will still rumble from the west, and French soldiers will still be dying for this land he stands on, dying so that someday France will be France again. But today, on March 15th, 1917, in a small village in northeastern France, Marcel Beaumont stands in his yard and knows with perfect clarity what he has become, and knows that, given the same choice tomorrow, he will make the same decision, because his daughter is still alive, and in occupation, that is the only mathematics that matters. The barn door hangs open, creaking in the wind. Inside, the hidden cache is gone, the false floor exposed, but the barn still stands, the land still waits, and tomorrow there will be work. There is always work. There is always another day to survive. And survival, in the end, is all that remains.